What is going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Lane Financial Group podcast. I have a very special guest with me today. I think you guys are going to like this one a lot. He is one of the top producers, one of the big leaders of this company, mentors pretty much everybody. Very, very smart. I think he's going to have a good story and get some good information for you guys. So, without further ado, Mr. Brad Blomquist, welcome on. Thank you for being
Thanks for
here.
having me. Yeah, no, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure. Hope we can drive some value for the people listening today.
Absolutely. So I want to let's start with you and we'll kind of go from there, but just, give us your life story, man. Where you from, what'd you do before this, all that good stuff.
Yeah, man. I grew up in a small town in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, so Wisconsin border area. Very small town. Grew up playing sports. My dad was a business owner, so I grew up in the shop with him, and went to school at Michigan State University. After that, I got a corporate job. Was in the corporate world for a little bit down in Atlanta, Georgia. My wife and I lived down there for a number of years. And I really grew with that company. I was in packaging automation sales, so we sold large automation to different warehouses and distribution centers just to make them more efficient. And through that process, man, I learned a lot. Coming out of college, 22, 23, I had a solid book of business that I was an account manager for, probably 5 to 10 million of business for the company I worked with. And throughout, 5 or 6 years after that, I really grew with that company. So by the end, I covered 7 states. I had a big book of business, managing these different client relationships through distributor partners. And throughout that experience, I really learned a lot. But the trouble with that was I was traveling a lot. It was something where I would leave on a Monday and come back on a Friday, and I had a wife and a wife that stayed at home with our kids and a young child at home. And man, it was just eating at me. And I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, brother. I really did. I always talked to the talk. I saw my dad growing a business, ever since I was young, and I wanted to do that for myself. And I tried everything, man. I tried the drop shipping, the SMMA, the Amazon affiliates, right? The network marketing, and I tried a lot and tasted a lot of different things, but nothing stuck. And then, I was listening to the Dropping Bombs podcast with Brad Lee, and that was, a consistent one that I always listened to. Him, Andy Frisella, Ed Milet, Rob Deerdeck, had a podcast that I listened to a lot of the stuff that he was talking about. Just everyone that I could possibly get my hands on talking about entrepreneurship and building a business, I was listening to. And Dropping Bombs was one of them. And he had a guy on, I think it was the Sean Mike podcast, and he was talking about insurance. And I was like, I never grew up wanting to be an insurance guy, that's for sure. I don't think anyone really does. It just fell on my lap, man. And it wasn't the insurance part that struck a chord with me. It was the opportunity of being in business for myself that really did. I didn't really care what product we would sell. If insurance was a great business, I wanted to learn more about it, right? Financial services is the industry where it's created the most millionaires out of any other industry on planet Earth. So, hearing that, understanding that I could be in business for myself, could work from home, could be with my family more, could make great income, could make great money. That seemed like a great prospect to me, man. So, I guess that's like the transition. I'm a small town guy. My wife and kids and I moved back to Michigan after spending a number of years down south, and now we're home with the grandparents. So I have 2 kids. One of them on the way is going to be born in September. So man, now I'm just living the family life, and it's been really a true blessing. My parents are alive and healthy and able to spend time with my kids. My wife's parents are alive and healthy and able to spend time with our kids, and we get I just to get to run around and play business all day, man. It's great.
Yeah.
It's fun.
No, that's awesome. I actually did not know you were from Michigan as well. That's
Yeah,
something
yeah, yeah.
I
Yeah, so
don't think I
Wisconsin
remember.
border area is my hometown.
Okay. And then what made your decision like when you went to college? Why Michigan State and what did you go for?
Yeah, my brother actually went to Michigan State. Great question. Yeah, my brother went to Michigan State. I grew up a Michigan State Spartan fan. Tom Izzo, actually the head coach of Michigan State, went to school at my high school. So, there
Hmm.
was some of those connections, familial, that had me looking to go to Michigan State. And then Yeah, I got into to MSU, went there for my undergrad. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was just at college to have fun, basically. But what I realized is I went for general engineering at first, and I realized, man, Michigan State University is not a top engineering school.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to do is get a little bit more precise and kind of built around what Michigan State actually does very good. And they have two programs that are best in the country, and that would be their packaging engineering program and their supply chain management school. So I basically early on in college took a class in both of them and picked which one I wanted to go with, and I went with packaging engineering, and that's what I kind of learned throughout schooling, and that's actually the business that I worked with after college was a packaging company that sold packaging
Mhm.
automation. So yeah, throughout my time at Michigan State, I learned a lot. It just allowed me to grow a little bit. I had some internships during college time, and that was really great learning experience and whatnot. So yeah, that's how I ended up at MSU.
Did you meet your wife in college too, or did you guys know each other before or after?
Yeah,
Or
yeah, great. Yeah, we knew each other in high school. We were a
Mhm.
part of the same friend group in college. And then we started, yeah, dating my junior year of college. Then after college, she went to Colorado and I went to Atlanta and we did the long distance thing. And it was, hey, is this going to work
Not
out or
fun.
is this not going to work out? And it ended up working out. And the rest is
Hey,
history.
that's awesome. I love that. No, I always like hearing those kind of things, especially when you're in your early 20s. Don't work out for a lot of people, especially when you meet or go through college and then long distance. That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Um, so when did you decide to join Real Financial? Like who did you speak with? Like that first initial point of contact. Like I talked with Terry yesterday, and he said his first conversation was with Brad
Hmm.
Lee. Then he talked to you, and that was kind of
Hmm.
when he decided to come in. So like,
Hmm.
what was that like for you?
Yeah, the business was a lot different when I started. I started when Real Financial was very, very new, right? I'm probably the longest standing agent of a part of Real Financial. It was a new business and we didn't have the infrastructure, the systems, the processes that we do now. So a new agent coming into our business right now has a totally different, trajectory than when I started in the business. When I first came in, I actually didn't talk to a single soul. We actually only relied on Lightspeed VT to bring us in the
Mhm.
business. I was handed a script and I was told where to buy leads, and that's what I did. I memorized the script and I went and bought leads, and I didn't actually talk to anybody within Real Financial probably until selling about 10 policies or so. We just had a totally different infrastructure. It was all virtually led, it was all online. And yeah, I really didn't have a mentor bringing me into the business. So, for me, where I really got the conviction of the opportunity is early on, about a month after I got my license. I lived in Charleston, South Carolina at the time, and about an hour and a half north in Charlotte, North Carolina, um, there was a lock-in event for insurance producers. And I
Mhm.
went to that lock-in event not knowing anybody, and there was probably 30 to 40 people there, and I learned objections. I learned the business, and I got my first policy sale there. I got my first two policy sale day there. It was a 2-day event, and yeah, I really started to be like getting conviction about the opportunity. And hey, if I put the same amount of time and effort that I'm putting into my full-time job into this, I can make this successful. So that's
Mhm.
really where I got that conviction. It was actually funny enough outside of Real Financial was
Mhm.
who I kind of like got that initial training and experience from, and then I brought those skills back to Real, and yeah, grew it from there. But that was kind of my first introduction, man. It was a totally different business, and I just kind of I was ready for something different, and this was the vehicle, and I just went off. I went, feet first and
Mhm.
jumped right in.
That's awesome. So how long ago was that when you first started?
Yeah, coming up on 4 years,
I'm
so
for
it'll
okay.
be yeah, about 4 years that I've been full time in the business.
Okay. And then when did you, this is gonna be a two-pronged question that so sorry. When did that change like from hey, just go on light speed and good luck to kind of how we do things now? Like when did that start to change? And were you a part of the leadership group that helped that transition?
Yeah, so that started to change about 2 years into our business. When I started learning, the insurance business, we only did final expense, right? Selling
Mhm.
people a final expense policy to help take care of the burden in case they were to pass, so that nobody else is responsible for their burial, their cremation,
Mhm.
whatever that looks like, right? So when I came into the business, it was a cold call heavy environment. Final expense focused. We didn't really do anything else. Then, as we got a little bit more experienced and us as leaders grew as producers and as leaders in the business, we started to realize that there's other products in the industry is quite vast, right? So then we
Mhm.
started looking at mortgage protection, right? Then IUL started becoming a thing. Then, fixed index annuities kind of, started coming around the horizon. So, as we grew in the business, personally, that's also kind of grew our training platform within Real Financial. And all of us leaders currently have at Real Financial have been here for a number of years, and we've all been a very important piece of putting together the training and the foundation that we do now. So right now, how we do it is we don't focus on really any given product, right? We do final expense, mortgage protection, IUL, annuities, right? We figure out what the client needs and then reach into the shelves of the industry and help prescribe the best product for them. So, when I started, probably about 2 years until we started going to about mortgage protection, maybe a year and a half, and then maybe another year after that to be really IUL, and then annuity focused and retirement planning and estate protection. All of that has kind of come on the back end.
Mhm.
What everyone sees right now in Lightspeed though has been a couple of years process putting it all together, and we're continually updating that and making it better each and every day. So when a lot of people ask me, hey, what's different about Real Financial? It's our virtual training platform, right? It's the training that we bring to new agents, and that's been developed over a couple of year time period while we've learned what works and what doesn't work, right? So a new agent coming into Real Financial, the idea is that they don't have to learn the things that we've had to learn over the past couple of years to be successful. And a lot of agents that are in my business right now, it's not going to take them, 4 years to be where I'm at. It's going to be a
Mhm.
lot quicker than that. And that's the idea and that's the goal.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you kind of got jumped ahead there at the end. That was going to be my next question. So let's stay there. You get a new agent. No, number one, how are you finding them? Are they coming to you? Do you still go out and, you know, recruit on your own? And then when you get them on that first conversation about it, what are you telling them about Real Financial and why they should come here? Outside of just the training, like you obviously just said, like what else are you telling them? Like, hey, this is why we're different.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for new agents, they have come into my business a number of different ways. It's been my warm market, my friends, family, relatives that I've known. I've also run a ton of job postings on job boards, Indeed, right, ZipRecruiter,
Mm,
all of those different platforms. We run our own recruiting ads right now as well to bring people into the business. So it's a combination. Like, how do I get a new business partner right now? It would be someone looking for an opportunity for my warm market. I'm actually bringing in one of my best friends from high school right now. He's going through his field trainings. He has his first field training tomorrow, which we're excited about. So it's a combination of that. My close friends that now, after being years in the business, now I have some credibility, right? Now I've built something. I can talk about things fluently with them and be able to educate them how to build their business in financial services, and that's the goal. So it's a combination of new agents as well as cold marketing, outreach, bringing people in, and just having those conversations. The next part is, I'm not a solo producer here. We do have an organization, and there's a lot of people a part of that organization. So a lot of what I help out with now is helping my agents build and grow their own independent agencies,
mm,
right? So helping them figure out how to get new agents into their business, whether that's talking with their warm market, where maybe a newer agent would bring the trust of knowing that person one on one, and then I would bring the credibility as someone who's been in the industry for a while. So that's the new agents. How do they come into the business? It's from cold, warm outreach, basically. And the idea and what we talk about is kind of what I think is the best thing for agents, if I was to give advice, would be to talk about the things that brought you into the business. What got you excited about being in the business? And for me, it was flexibility, it was time freedom, it was, the income earning potential, right? If I stayed in my previous job, sure, I was making $100+ thousand a year, and that was great, but I was looking at people 5, 10, 15 years ahead of me, and they were making, moderately more. They weren't making
Yeah.
exponentially more, right? So the uncapped earning potential really got me. Being able to run a business from anywhere in the country really got to me. I want to have rental properties all around the country, and, that we can go stay as a family. So that flexibility really appealed to me. So when I'm going and I'm having that conversation about why real financial, if they're licensed, I'll talk a little bit more specifically about the things that we bring to the industry that are different than maybe a previous company that they're at. But if they're unlicensed, I'm going to talk about what got me into the business. I'm going to ask them about their family. I'm going to ask them about, are they loving what they do? Do they see themselves doing that for the next 10, 15, 20 years, or would they be open to other opportunities? Right? I would ask them some of those questions and see if those are some pain points. They have some of the similar pain points that I had, and what made financial services attractive to me to join the business. And I think that's the best way to have a first conversation with a potential business partner.
No, that's beautiful. That was one of the first things I remember you had told me too. Pretty much the same thing. Like when I was first coming on, getting on board and stuff, me and you had that talk just like that. So,
Hmm.
it's consistency, just in the messaging. Like I can attest to that because again, it's one of the first things everybody says is something similar to that might be, word tracked differently, but it's the same point. You get to the same end.
Hmm.
Um, what do you think uh the biggest mistake that you see in young agents? Like where's the point where you're like, dude, don't do this, but it keeps happening to people like let's say younger people like closer to my age that are in their mid early 20s. Like what's that one thing that you're like, man, if you don't do that, you're gonna be fine.
So that's a really deep question. I would say new agents' mistakes, it's usually not anything that new agents do that is a detriment to them. It's usually about the longevity that they have their mindset around. A lot of younger, newer agents, they have the get rich quick mentality where they're going to come into this and they see people putting up 30,000, 40,000 a month. They don't really realize what's gone into that over months and months of dedication and effort, and then they come into the business, and if they don't hit that by month two, they get discouraged and they don't think that they can do it, and then they're out of the business. So for new agents, younger agents, what I would say is that look at setting up a more of a business, not just creating something as a get rich quick, scheme. The
Mhm.
goal would be more importantly, probably if anyone were to ask themselves, is it more important what your business looks like in 5 to 10 years, or is it more important what your business looks like in a couple of months? I think a problem with a lot of newer agents is they don't have that long-term vision. And Brad Lee says this, and he says, "Hey, I've been 90 days away from being rich for the past 20 years, right?" But as he was building Lightspeed in the early 2000s, dude, that's been the same mentality I've had in business, right? I've been 90 days away from blowing this up for a while now, and that's allowed me to kind of, you know, operate in small steps, but have a long vision as well. I think that's really
Mhm.
important. Is new agents need to do things systematically, day by day, get 1% better every day, but have the long-term vision of what you're actually building. And what you're actually building is a business that can operate without you running the helm 10, 15, 20 years in the future. That's the long-term goal. And if you're not really hitting 30,000 a month right now, that's okay. As long as you're executing towards that long-term goal and have a long-term mindset, you will get there eventually. The problem with new agents is that they don't have the persistence. A lot of times they don't have the mental fortitude yet, and a lot of times they don't have the chips on their shoulder to help them push through a challenging time. Because in business, in any business, no matter what business that you're going to have challenging times. And a lot of new agents, sometimes they run away from the challenges, thinking that the challenges are unique to financial services, but really the challenges are their glass ceiling to the next potential person that they can be. They need to break through the challenges of whatever they're going through, and they'll realize that they're much stronger on the other side of it. So, yeah, man, I think pushing through, having mental fortitude is really big for new agents, and that would be my recommendation. It's not necessarily something, a process or a skill that they don't have. It's having that long-term mindset that all successful people at Real Financial
Mhm.
they have. They have that long-term vision.
Yeah, and like to piggyback the end of that, like it's just any business too. They all have that same, okay, yeah, it's rough. Just I have to get through it, get through the storm kind of,
Yeah,
and
and on the end of a storm, what you realize when you're in business, man, there's a lot of storms. There's storms that come and there's big ones and there's small ones, and then you handle them, but you get to the other side and you realize that you're much stronger because of it. I've had harder times in business just like anybody has. You have cash flow issues, you have maybe employee issues, you have, employees that are unhappy, you have people that want to get a raise, right? That's been a big, thing. You have agents that leave and go to another agency. You have a lot of things that happen as an agency owner. But I think all of those things are kind of the stepping stones to ultimately become the people in the business that we want to become. Every business has gone through the things that I've gone through, and that helps me be a better leader too. I've gone through a lot of things, Jacob, that you're going to experience, and new agents are, and I can talk confidently through those because I've been through similar experience, and I can talk from experience versus just maybe speculation potentially.
yeah. How do you handle like somebody that does have that mental block? Like if they're starting to doubt themselves, but you're like, man, I think this would be somebody that could be so successful. Like what how and they're coming to you, they reach up, like Brad always says, reach up to your mentor or whoever else that can help you that's been there. Like what's your process to help it? And they're like, man, I don't think I can do this. Like and they're fighting with themselves for no reason. So what are you going to tell them to try to help them with that?
Yeah, I would probably again let them know that they might just be in a rut right now.
Mhm.
That not to make any drastic decisions based on how they're feeling right now, right? All of us we wake up and we have our day and we feel the way that we do about our day, but really, how our life goes is really probably more conducive to how we feel generally most of the time, right? It's not a day-to-day
Mhm.
kind of thing. So I would probably try to figure out like, okay, is this how you're feeling right now? Maybe it's just a rut. I would try to dissect that and get some, basic understanding of that. If they really have some self-belief issues, I think a lot of self-belief issues come from a lack of skill and a lack of understanding. So a lot of times if some agent is having belief issues, maybe they don't know the script well enough to call people and they're afraid and that's paralyzing them and they feel like they can't do it and then their mind is telling them no, right? So
Mhm.
is it a training thing? Is it a skill set thing? Maybe their habits aren't set up, right? Or do they feel down about the business that they can't do it because they're waking up at 10 a.m. and hitting snooze 5 times and not knowing what they're going to do coming into the day, right? Are they not eating good? All of those things play into how someone is going to feel. So a lot of times when a new agent is coming to me like that, I'm trying to be like a doctor, a physician, trying to understand, okay, why is this person feeling like this? Is it maybe a rut that they're in? Can I give them some mindset, long-term thinking stuff? Is it maybe like something a little bit more practical, like they actually don't know the skills yet to be successful, and then I need to teach them the skills, and we need to hammer in on that. Maybe have a couple of one-on-ones where we're really, really role playing back and forth. But really, the reason why people leave the business and as leaders what we need to tell everybody and we need to give them the confidence of is number one, does this as an opportunity work? Does real financial as an opportunity work? They need to answer that for themselves, and that answer needs to be yes, right? So we can go to the result and everything like that, and we know that the opportunity in financial service works. Okay, so that's answered for an agent. We need to get them to understand that. And then number two, they need to answer the question, am I able to do this? Are they themselves able to do this? And if we can make our process and our system simple enough that most people can come in and say, hey, man, Brad's doing that. I can do that if I just follow this same process, right? So then they get belief in themselves. And if we can answer those two questions, does this work? And then can a new agent do this themselves and have confidence in that? Then we're heading in the right direction and we'll have less of those conversations over time about a new agent coming to us feeling like they can't do it themselves.
Yeah,
But it is something that does happen from time to time, right? Not everybody is cut out to run their own business. It's just the way that it is. It's the nature of the business that we're in.
absolutely. And then do you think that a big part of helping them with that confidence is get them that first paycheck? Or
Yeah,
maybe
that's really,
like
really
getting
big.
right at they're getting right to it. They're starting to get in their head a little bit. And the minute they get that first check and they're like, oh, there, okay, now I see it. Do you think that's a big one?
That is a massive one. Yeah, that's why part of our system is to get somebody their first deal in the first 30 days, right? And that's really important. That's a hot start, right? There is no slow starts in the business, is usually what we say. A slow start is usually somebody that maybe isn't being consistent enough to do the work that they need to be successful eventually, right? So we're always looking for a hot start. We always want to get someone cash flow quickly. And that is a really big thing to the longevity of agents that stay with our business. So if we can make somebody, let's just say, $1,000 in their first 30 days, there's a higher chance that that agent stays on with us over the next 24 months than if we didn't do that. So that's a really big piece of it. And it's really important to get people paid quickly so they feel the momentum and they see the results of their labor.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think ask a different question actually. What do you think the biggest lesson that you learned since you joined Real Financial? And it can be anything from business itself to you as a person and anything in between. Like, what do you think the number one biggest thing you've learned is?
Wow. There's a bunch of different ways you could go with that one. The biggest thing that I learned and that everybody will learn if they're an entrepreneur is that nobody is coming to save you.
Yeah.
Nobody's coming to save you. Nobody's coming to help you. Nobody's coming to, if you are running low on cash flow and you need to come up with the next mortgage, there's no one coming to pay that mortgage bill for you. There's no one to make sure that if your kids need something, that you can pay for it for them if they need to go to their birthday, right? And you need to get them a birthday gift. Can you afford that, right? Nobody is coming to save us. And that's something that I've learned. Real Financial is not coming to save us. Our clients aren't coming to save us a lot of the times. Our agents aren't coming to save us. Nobody is besides ourselves. And when you actually realize that, there's a lot of self-responsibility that comes a part of that. When you realize that nobody is coming to save you, you realize that, hey, you have to make it happen regardless of any exterior environment issues that might come up, right? Whether that is Real Financial or agents or clients or family life, right? You have to kind of separate them. You really do. So the biggest lesson I think at Real Financial is that nobody's coming to save us. It's all up to me. If I'm going to be successful, it's because of me. It's not because of anything else, right? It's operating from an internal frame versus an external frame, an internal locus of control. I feel like the biggest lesson that I've had is that I actually have an internal locus of control, meaning that my self-worth and my ambition, it comes from a self. It comes from myself. It doesn't come from my expectations or my hopes of uh, making other people feel like I'm successful, right? An external approach where I'm
Mhm.
trying to achieve things for an external validation. That's an external locus of control. So long-winded answer, but I would feel like my biggest lesson is that I need to have an internal locus of control. Nobody is coming to save us. And then for everybody that's joining the business, they need to develop that internal locus of control as well, where environment doesn't matter and you're going to be successful regardless. A lot of the hard challenges actually help refine that and make it sharper and make you realize that actually you are more powerful than you think and you can get through a lot more than you would think as well. So that's the biggest lesson I've learned at Real Financial and being in business for myself.
That's awesome. I think that is probably some of the best advice I've heard, as somebody who is just getting started in this business and went from the W-2 as a mechanic to now running my own deal, like you said.
Yeah.
Um, Kind of backtrack a little bit. Um, was there any like preconceived negative notions about this industry when you started that you got in and went, well, people were wrong about that. They must have just gotten burned in some way.
To be honest, I didn't know anything about the insurance space. I came in
Mhm.
completely green, didn't know anything, and I was very naive to a lot of different things. And I think that actually worked in my favor. I was so
That
naive
probably
that
made it a
I
lot
was just,
would have made it a
I
lot
was
easier.
Made it a lot easier, man. I was extremely coachable. Anything that people told me to do, or I was trying to soak in
Mhm.
as much information as well. So I was on YouTube, listening to videos, listening to podcasts, and just soaking in all that information. So I came in with zero prior knowledge, zero expectations, zero prior conceived notions, and I feel like that naivety, it kind of helped me, honestly, because a lot of that kind of noise, I wasn't even thinking about it. I was just thinking about growing this business, and it was all positive for me coming in.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, because I know when I started, I had a lot of family that were like, "Ooh, you're doing what?" And it was
Ah,
like,
oh yeah, man. I mean, I
you
had a lot
know,
of that for sure. I definitely had a lot of that. When people like, man, I was making good money. My wife was staying at home with our kid,
hmm,
and she was a stay-at-home mom, and we had a great house in Charleston, and we lived a great life. And I had the company car. I had the golden handcuffs of a bit
yeah,
of a business. From the outside, everyone looked at me like I was one of the most successful from my friend group from high school and college, right? Like all of that stuff. When I told my family and friends that I was leaving that and starting my own thing and selling life insurance, because that's really what we were doing. Now I think we do a lot more in financial services, but they were like, "What do you mean? Has Brad lost his mind? Like, what is going on?" It was a very big kind of culture, shift for them. And I remember actually this is like a key point of my early career that really has kind of shaped me is it was towards the end of the year that I came on and I went full time and I quit my previous job, which everyone was very shocked. And then I came to Christmas that year. I had a Christmas in
mhm.
the hometown. Everybody was there, and my cousin, and he's a nice guy and everything. He probably didn't mean anything. He probably doesn't even know he said it, but I remember what he said. And we were talking about how I left that company and now I'm starting my own business. And he's like, "Oh, I think Brad just watched a little bit too much of Wolf of Wall Street." You know, that's what he said. And I still remember that 4 years ago,
That's awesome.
coming up on 4 years ago today. And, there was a lot of kind of naysayers in that, but that kind of chip on my shoulder, you can leverage motivation from a positive source or you can leverage it from a negative source, right? It's like the positive energy versus the dark energy. I think it's also good to harness your motivation from also proving some people wrong as well, right? Harnessing kind of like, man, we'll see. Right, we'll see.
Yeah.
Now I've 4 years in the business, and we haven't had that conversation yet, and maybe we eventually will. But yeah, man, that's how I kind of think of it. So
No, see, I love that because, like I said, when I was first getting into it, a lot of friends and family that were like, "Dude, that business is shady. You don't need you shouldn't get into that. It's shady." And I'm like, again, same thing. I didn't know nothing. I
hmm
didn't I didn't even if you would have came up to me and said, "Hey, man, you want an IUL?" I'd be like, "What the hell's an IUL?" Like, what? Just something simple like that, like a lot. And I know a lot of people that have gotten burned by people at other companies doing it dirty, which is what I have been breaking a lot of walls down with. Okay, just because they did it, like that's not what we do. We do our leadership, and as somebody who's starting out, has made this a very big point on almost every call, every week. You're going to do this ethically. You're doing this the right way. Like on my call that I'm doing later today, I on the discovery call, I was like, hey, obviously, when we got towards the end of it and we get through some of the stuff, I said, hey, obviously I get compensated. We're not running a charity, but I'm going to show you something that's going to make sense for you more than it does for me.
yeah,
That's a lot of people have said they like that. Just, you can word it differently, but it's that like, yeah, I know I can make more of a paycheck, but we don't do that. Not at Real Financial.
yeah, it's a consultative approach to selling versus a product focused approach to selling, right? Sure, we, sell products and we get commission for those products, but we actually want to understand what a client's needs are, ask them questions about their whole financial picture that we can recommend suitable solutions that will actually help them. So, yeah, man, I think like a lot of people they hear something and they kind of maybe are like prone to gossip as well. Oh, you don't want to get into that industry. I've heard some things and it's like,
Yep.
yeah, but have you been in that industry? Do you really know? You heard something from your friend John who, joined a business and didn't like it or wasn't successful and then
Yeah.
they had, right? Like That's like kind of gossipy. I don't play in that world like at all, right? Like I just like if somebody said that to me, I'd be like, yeah, man, that's awesome, dude. I'm glad that you think that way. Let me know if anything comes up or you change your mind. Would love to kind of dig into your situation a little bit further. If somebody has a perspective that is ill against what I do, or they just don't know what I do. They're
Correct.
just not close to it enough. Because
And a
we
lot
do
of
we
people
do
aren't.
help a lot of
A
people,
lot of
and
people aren't. That's the big thing I've learned is a lot of people don't really understand what it is that we do. They just see
yeah,
insurance. That's all they
yeah.
see.
They don't. And, when you hand kind of your first death claim, that's when it becomes real, right? When you
Yeah.
actually deliver that cash to somebody, that's when it becomes real. For a new agent, I would say. And yeah, man, not everyone's going to be a buyer for everything,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it just is like some people understand the need of having insurance protection and some people don't, right? I can let you know though that our target market is very vast in insurance. There's a lot of people that need insurance just generally because if something were to happen to them, it would put their family in a worse financial position, right? If they were to pass, their family might not be able to afford the same house that they're living in right now. Well, there's insurance involved to be able to counter that risk, right? If you
Yeah.
become sick or ill and you can't work anymore, well, you can have insurance that gives you a paycheck every single month, just like if you were working. That's what insurance for. There's an insurance in place that handles that risk, right? So, making sure that man, if somebody has a taxable estate and they have $15 million of assets, well, if those assets pass to the next generation, they're going to get taxed because they're above the estate tax, right? They're going to get
Yeah.
taxed on 40% of that. How can we mitigate that tax exposure by putting a life insurance policy in place? That way, the estate is preserved to that next generation, where the family actually didn't see any of that taxable implication because it was handled by a tax-free death benefit, right? So yeah, I would say a lot of that kind of naysaying comes from uneducation, and our job is to re-educate the people that are close to it. If they have those perceptions, it's to be good at enough at what we do, articulate enough at what we say, to be able to start inching them a little bit closer to our side of it, dropping little nuggets that get them a little bit more of friendlies than oppositions to
Yeah.
the insurance side. So
Would
that's
you
what I
say that might be one of the bigger reasons, like kind of what we were just talking about, why they should come talk to us? Just anybody, not even people you know, just people should come talk with us at Real Financial, instead of maybe going to your, like a State Farm, like the big established, like, because we do it differently than they do it. Like, would you say what we're talking about? That's a good, I would think that's a very good plus and probably one of the bigger reasons, at least I tell people, that why they should
Yeah,
come to me.
definitely. I mean, like the question is like, do you want to work with a captive firm that only can work with a couple of products, or do you want to work with a brokerage that can work with a lot of different products and fit your specific situation into a product that'll actually put you in the best position and be able to weigh the pros and cons of each different product? I think that's, as a brokerage, that's where we, offer our value. We work with 20 to 30 A-rated companies. We do a lot of different types of insurance, everything from traditional life insurance to disability, long-term care, annuities, right? All of that stuff is kind of included. Whereas maybe a captive firm, like some of the ones that you mentioned, they might only focus on a couple of things, or maybe life insurance isn't their main product that they sell. Maybe it's property and casualty, and then they have life insurance as a bolt on. That's a lot of times where I see value of getting an extra set of eyes from a brokerage to see if there's any better opportunity or a better product program out there that could, be more beneficial for them. So yeah, I would definitely say that anybody watching this or listening to this, they need to understand what kind of insurance they have, who it's through, and people are products are more commoditized now. People are getting smarter, and the goal would be how I look at it. If I'm shopping property and casualty, like my homeowner's insurance, I want to work with a broker. I want to work with a person that can shop around many carriers, not just a single captive firm. That's how I shop as a consumer. So I want to run my business the same way. That's
Yeah,
how I think about it.
that's church, man. That's church.
Love it.
So where can everybody get a hold of you? Any social medias or
Yeah, I mean, I'm on Instagram. I don't post much there. I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me there as well. But most importantly, I am in Slack and helping run Real Financial. So I'm on our weekly calls every single week. I'm in our Slack channel. When you join the business, you can certainly get a hold of me. and would love to have the conversation with you, help you out in any sort of way, shape, or form, man. And looking forward to seeing your success as well, Jacob. Good luck and everything in the future, and I'm excited to see where your business takes you, my friend.
I appreciate it, and I appreciate the hell out of you for coming on and sitting and talking with me today.
Sounds good.
So
Love
with
it.
that, I'll see everybody next time, and thank you again, Brad.
Take care, everybody.
All right,
See ya.
bye.